Welcome to this episode of Ink It Up with Jessica TV. I'm Jessica Taylor, and in today's episode I'm going to show you two different ways to watercolor. First, we're going to watercolor with a blender pen, and then we're going to watercolor with the clear Wink of Stella brush. So to do that, I'm first going to stamp an outline stamp. This is from the Touches of Texture stamp set, and you want to just stamp a nice outline that has room in the lines to color. So this is the perfect stamp for that, and I'm going to stamp it in basic black archival ink. And the reason you want to do that is you want to make sure that you're not using a water-based ink. You want a pigment ink that is not going to smear when you get it wet. So I've gone ahead and done that because I like to stamp my image and then let it rest for a couple of minutes so that the ink really has a chance to set before I watercolor. So we'll go ahead and get started with that. When you're watercoloring, you're going to want a piece of scratch paper that you can kind of rub your blender pen or whatever kind of brush you're using. You're going to rub it off to clean it in between colors. Then I'm going to take my ink pad. This is Mint Macaron. And if you haven't used your ink pad to watercolor yet, or if there's no ink in the lid, you want to just squeeze your ink pad together while it's closed. And then when you open it, you'll notice that there's ink pooled in the lid here. That's what we're going to use to watercolor with our blender pen. So I'm just going to use the tip of the blender pen to pick up some of that ink, and I'm going to use it to color in the leaves. I'm starting with those with the blender pen because I don't need those to be shimmery. I want the flowers to be shimmery, but these are just going to be more matte leaves. So I'm just re-inking my blender pen as I need to, as I kind of run out of color, and you can always come back and add more color. The blender pen has a really fine tip, so it's great for getting into these little details. You can also use the blender pen for multiple colors. You don't need one for just green. You can clean this off and then use it in pink the next time if you want to. So almost done here, one more leaf. Once you have all of your leaves colored in, you can just go ahead and clean off your blender pen by running it on your scratch paper until it's clear, and then just put that away for next time. So for the leaves on this card, we're going to use two different colors, and I'm going to start with Pink Pirouette. I'm going to totally open this up, and because I don't want to put my Wink of Stella pen, this is just clear, but when you run it, it gives kind of a glimmer and shimmer, and so I don't want that to be added to my ink pad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a small clear block, because this is what I have handy, and I'm going to ink it up, and then I'm going to use the ink from that to do my watercoloring. So I'm just going to use the brush tip on my Wink of Stella pen to pick up some of that ink, and I'm going to use it to color in my flowers. And then again, you just add more ink as you need it. So I'm going to color all the flowers in with this Pink Pirouette color, and then I'm going to come back and add Melon Mambo to the center of the larger flowers, and that's how I'm going to get the two-tone look that you see on this card. It's also important to know that it's going to look a little bit different when you watercolor it on and when it dries. It's going to dry just a little bit differently. So sometimes after you've let it dry for a little bit, you might want to come back and add more color. But know that even though you can come back and add color, it's really hard to come back and take away color. So always start out on the lighter side, and then after it's dried, if you want to add more color and make it darker, you can do that, but don't start too dark. Okay, we're almost there. So now that I have the Pink Pirouette all colored in, again, you might want to let this dry before you go to your next color. For the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Melon Mambo. I'm just going to clean off my clear block and get that Pink Pirouette ink off, and do the same thing with my Melon Mambo. So that's going to be my color. You can do the same thing. It doesn't really matter because we're doing pink on pink, but if you want to, you're going to want to clear off this pen before you put it away, or if you're going to change colors that, you know, to a color that's not similar. So I'm just going to do the same thing and pick up some of this ink, And then I'm going to start in the middle of a petal, a flower petal, and just kind of make some feather-like brushes, because this is going to make it look more like a real flower. You'll also notice that I just keep turning my paper so that it's easier for me to do the coloring, the watercoloring. Also, you may notice that as this dries, the melon mambo is getting lighter and lighter. If you want it to be darker, you want to either wait for your pink pirouette to be dry, or just come back and add a little more melon mambo after it's all dried. Okay, one more flower. Again, just drawing on lines almost, instead of just plopping down a bunch of color. And it gives it kind of a feathered look, more like a real flower. So then I'll go ahead and clean that off. And that is how you watercolor with the clear Wink of Stella brush and a blender pen. So you'll want to let this dry before you go ahead and put it on a card. But I hope that you'll give these watercoloring tips a try. Thanks so much for watching.